What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Tales from the Soundcheck podcast for another episode of Chat with the Artist.
Today we are stoked to host a band from Ohio that you may have not heard of in a very long time.
They combine elements of progressive metal, mathcore, deathcore, and post-hardcore.
Back in July, they announced they'll be performing in Youngstown, Ohio on November 18th, 2023. Their first performance in nearly 14 years, and they are also working on new music.
Nick Huffman and Paul Misko, the drummer and guitarist for the band From a Second Story Window.
Hope you enjoy. What is going on, gentlemen?
Hello.
What's happening?
Just chilling, man. Thank you so much for taking some time and just coming to hang out with us and shooting the shit and get to know you guys a little more. First and foremost, where are you guys from, and introduce yourselves and what you guys do in the band.
Go ahead, Paul.
All right. I'm Paul. I'm originally from Ohio, where the band is based, but I live in Texas now, and I play guitar.
And I'm Nick, and I never left Ohio, and I play drums.
Fair enough.
Still right here.
I was just through Ohio late August. I was driving through straight across.
You're welcome.
It was a long day. Started in Indianapolis and ended in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So it was straight through.
Yeah, that's a long one.
Dan and I are from New England, so Ohio, New England, it's there's a lot of similarities there when it comes to terrain.
Well, I mean,
And
yeah, we're all in North America, so everybody pretending like their towns are different at this point is kind of hilarious.
Unless you're near a mountains or an ocean, is pretty much the same.
Right,
or
right.
Or desert, I guess.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's the same strip of corporate chains.
Exactly.
Where's the lie?
Yeah, there's no lie there.
Yeah.
There's Walmarts in Rhode Island and Walmarts in California, right? It's
Except you can't stay at Walmart anymore.
You can't legally sleep in a Walmart parking lot anymore.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah.
We used to do that back in the day.
Right?
We all did.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't do it anymore. But then
24-hour gyms.
To play devil's advocate, with my job, I'm at Walmart's, Targets, and stuff during the day, and there's a lot of people sleeping in Walmart parking lots. There's definitely people still chilling, but I mean, why fuck with people? Like Walmart. It was the safe haven. It was like a Planet Fitness is now like the boilerplate safe haven.
Yeah, I think the type of people who sleep in a Walmart parking lot regularly probably aren't checking up on the on the rules. So.
No. So, guys, like Dan said, awesome to have you on. I'm stoked. Our buddy Josh hit you guys up. He's been, I guess, we call him our talent coordinator now because we don't pay him. He just decided to start hitting bands up and jump on the show. He's in an awesome band called Bearing Point. They slam super hard. But first show in 15 years coming up. What sparked you guys to get back into it?
Oh, well, I think the start of it was probably when Wax Vessel put out the vinyl of all three records, and it kind of got everybody talking again. We started a band group chat and just got back in touch because, like, I don't know how much like Nick and Rob and the guys in Ohio like talked, but like we weren't talking that often. So it kind of got us on like a weekly, like, just chatting, catching up, and started to post on the Instagram like, oh, it seems like people still care. And then the original singer Sean was in the chat as well, and he had a dream one night. He was like, I had this dream, we wrote this like 18-minute long song or something, and it was like, I don't know if it was me or someone else said, oh, why don't we write a song, like, and we're like, haha, sure. So I started doing that and didn't tell anybody. And I wrote half a song, and then Sean texted me on the side, and he goes, "You can program drums, right? Like, what if you like start a demo and just drop it in the chat?" I'm like, "Already on it." So I just dropped that in there one day, and I go, "So, what do you guys think?" And then everyone's like, "Oh shit, like this sounds cool." Like, and we started talking more, and we were like, "What can we do? Maybe we do an EP. Should we do a show?" And that kind of kicked everything off.
Yeah, the reception around the vinyl release kind of took everybody's breath away and didn't make sense to any of us. We thought, this is a totally different life at this point, and the the fact that they just all sold like in an instant was something else, man. And I mean, exactly what Paul said. Once we all started talking again consistently, and a lot of it was around the logistics of that stuff, but we're that group of friends where it's just like any best friend where you can go years without being in contact. And none of us went years, but it wasn't like a daily thing. But when you get back in touch, it's like you never missed a day kind of thing. And the hilarity in our circle is like something none of us have outside of it. It's a unique thing.
Yeah.
And it just made everybody miss each other. And yeah, from not Paul's perspective, nobody knew. And then he acts all humble and drops this like banger of a song on us that is largely unchanged now. Like we're almost done writing. We have a couple songs left to do, and that was the first one, and it's essentially what he made. And we were all just like, "Holy shit." And it's been fun. It's been truly fun, and that's like the whole point of it this time is like none of us would be doing it if it wasn't absolutely fun and like a joy to do, because otherwise, why would we at this point?
Yeah, the way things ended too, it was kind of like it ended so abruptly, and we didn't plan on breaking up. It just kind of happened, and we missed out on a lot of things that were planned. We broke up before the last record even came out, so it was kind of like this unfinished business that we never thought we'd get to like come back and play a show or multiple shows, or let alone write new music, and then kind of have a proper send off after however long it's going to be that we do this last run here. But it all came together perfectly, and just was like I didn't think like anyone was going to say yes because some of the guys hadn't played forever, and I was just like fingers crossed when I hit send in the chat with that demo. And then here we are, like 6 songs in or whatever, and we have a show in 2 weeks, and we'll see what happens. Go in the studio in the spring.
What Paul did was inspiring, and that's like the understatement of the day.
Thank you, sir.
That comment right there just shows how you guys are as a band. Because if somebody's inspiring, that just shows that it's like me with my old bandmates in multiple projects. I've been friends with them for 20 years plus, some of them, and like you said, it's like the hilarity of that group of best friends. Like nobody knows those inside jokes, or as an example, and nobody knows all the crazy shit that's going on, and that's just outside of the music aspect of it. But then doing all the other experiences with them, it's a cool, unique relationship that I think, I mean, really only people in certain art forms really get to experience.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing else really like it. We didn't know it was going to be a thing because, like he said, some of us hadn't played in a while. Like I'm a dad. I've got 2 kids. I'm married. I hadn't sat at my drums and done anything even remotely challenging in ages. There wasn't really time carved out for it in my life. And playing like that, like the old records and stuff, was very much like an endurance sport that you can't just watch a YouTube video and be, back in the saddle ready to go. Like it took a long time. I was like, at first they were like, "Oh yeah, let's do shows," and I was like, "Hold on, I can't play." And I would like have nightmares of like we're backstage, the intro music starts, we all have to walk out, and then I go, "Wait a minute, we never practiced. What are we doing?"
Oh God.
Yes, multiple of us had those nightmares before we even talked about playing shows, and that's where kind of Sean's dream came in. Like we would like whoever would have one would say had one last night. Like we were on stage and we were about to start, and no one knew how to play anything. We never practiced once, and was like, "What are we doing?" Like when you're naked in school type nightmare.
Yeah.
And then we kept saying, "Oh, I'm having this dream. I'm having this dream." And then Sean was like, "So I had a dream. I wrote a song," and that's how it started from there. But for the record, Nick has absolutely killed it, going from 0 to 60 in such a short amount of time, back to where he was, if not better. So
Oh.
it's gonna be awesome.
It's like riding a bike. It's like riding a bike, right?
Yeah, it's like falling off a bike. Hurts really bad, but you can do it.
It's definitely hardest for the drummer who's playing that type of shit that fast. Like,
yeah, for sure.
That's a big thing to take on when you haven't played in years.
I can't play drums, so I can only imagine.
Poor Dave. He wanted his first instrument to be drums, but his dad said no.
No, my dad was a drummer, and he was just like, nah. And I was like, why? And I think it was the noise, but
yeah, he's like, trust me.
Yeah, he knew.
It's the most expensive one. Don't do it.
It's pretty expensive. Yeah.
Have you guys seen the price symbols lately? Like, Jesus Christ.
I'm well aware.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's rough.
Oh, man. I don't know if it's a touchy subject or not, but, like, what led to you guys to, like, stop playing initially?
Ooh.
There was no, like, discussion prior to it happening. We were on tour, and, like, the way it panned out was our last show. When we were playing it, we didn't know it was our last show.
Mm-hmm.
We were just on a tour that didn't really have great support. It was one of those, like, just really roughing it kind of tours, and our morale was low. Everybody was kind of ready for a break. What should have really been a break ended up being like we just stopped, essentially.
Yeah.
We didn't finish a tour, had like a fight that isn't remarkable. Nothing that's like out of the realm. Like every band had the kind of fight that we had, where we were just like, it happened at a bad point where we were coming through our area. So the night the fight happened, we all actually went home. And that was the plan to begin with. We were playing in like Toledo, and then it was just a couple hours to home. And the fight happened that night. And then the next day, we just didn't get in the van and go to the next date. And we were just like, we're taking a break. And then that break just never ended. And like months later, we were like, I guess we should formally say something. And it was just... It
was a lot of tours of just like being on the wrong tours with not the right bands, and the crowds weren't there, or if they were, they didn't care about us, and you're not making a lot of money, as you guys know. So like on top of that, it was just like doing that for so long, we were kind of just beat up and tired, and then you hit a point where someone snaps first and says I'm done, and then like some of the other guys, including myself, were probably like I'm kind of done too, and it was just kind of that, like nothing happened between any of the members, or no hostility or anything. It was more the situation, and like we just felt like we weren't getting anywhere. And yeah, we broke up before conversations even came out. So if that tells you like how things were going, like we were just so done.
This was like a silent thing. Like you guys just said, all kind of like unanimously said fuck it, without really establishing the fact. I mean, I get it. I've had fist fights with members in vans on the side of the road. Pull the van over,
almost most bands we've been on tour with, we've seen them do that
Yep.
we talked not that long ago about how, like, when we thought we were dysfunctional, like when we really would sit and think about it, we were like insanely respectful and democratic about everything we did. Like we would like uh kind of structure things in a way that removed the possibility for fighting
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Like we saw bands that their driving schedule was no schedule. It was just like you would see these guys get to the show and everybody was in a race to be the, the first one drunk, and then the last guy left sober was stuck having to drive. And it would
Ah,
just we
shit.
would see these guys have these fights, and we very early on set up this like rotation that goes through everybody, and it was like gospel. You didn't really mess with it. When it was your night, you knew it was your night.
Yeah, we had that. We
And
had that as well. It was just
Yeah,
we had half straight
best
edge,
way.
half not. So it was
Yeah, it's not fair to the guys who are always sober to just be like, "Oh, I'm drinking tonight." So
yeah, we had
Yeah.
100. We had 100 not. So
Oof.
it was
we had a minimum too. You had to drive at least 200 miles before you stopped, and you
yeah,
could go
you
as
can
long as
tap
you
out at
wanted.
200 miles.
and when we were younger, I felt like 200 miles was a long way, and it's really really not.
It really
It's
isn't at
not.
all.
It's not,
It's fake.
but if it's like you have 600 miles to cover before the next evening and you're driving after playing a show that same night,
Yeah.
once
you're
if you're the
wiped.
first guy to
Mhm.
drive, once you hit 200 miles, you're ready to lay down.
I don't like
Yeah.
driving
Oh,
at
yeah.
night, and most of the
Driving
drives
after
are
a
at night.
show was the worst.
Yep.
Yeah, it
We're
sucked.
like, it's too far. We can't stay. We got to go. Like, and you're sweaty, no shower, just get in the van and lay down. Like,
How from when you guys started the band, because I know you guys had a name change before the band was From a Second Story Window. That was a part of it. How quick did you guys pop off from like not
I
having tour cycles like that to just on the road?
So, I mean, we were on the road pretty consistently, like kind of quickly, but I wouldn't call that having popped off. Um, you can do full US tours and play in a different city every night of the week in front of a dozen people if you want to.
Of course.
And
Of course.
We've
so
all been there.
Yeah.
if that's the bar for popping off, we popped off right away.
We all popped off right away, I guess,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. No, we just didn't want to be home. But no, the Metal Blade thing was we did get signed. Like I was the youngest member of the band at the time when it was time to start touring. We recorded our EP, the Not One Word Has Been Omitted release, my senior year of high school, and everybody else was done with high school by a couple years. Well, Joe was like less than a year ahead of me, but everybody had been waiting on me to finish high school for a couple years. I wasn't gonna drop out. But we left for our first self-booked tour literally the morning after my graduation commencement. Like it was booked and planned months ahead. I had a bag packed, got my diploma, went and slept on my guitar player's couch, and we got in the van the next morning and left.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and in New England, outside of New England somewhere, we played some like VFW hall, and there was a guy with like a distro table set up, all the CDs, had this little label called Black Market Activities. It was Guy Kazawik from Red Chord. And
Oh, wow.
we like, it was one of those chaotic shows. Sean, our singer, like throwing trash on our guitar player and just typical early FASWA type chaotic show. And we like essentially had a verbal contract that night. He was like, I'd love to put something out by you guys. And we had this EP that we had recorded ourselves. And we were like, if somebody ordered a shirt, we would send it for free. Or if people just sent us their address, we would mail them to them for free. And he was just like, what if we repackaged this, got you like actual artwork and put it back out Like I can get it actually like distributed. And so we had this like tailor-made ready to go record that we didn't, go through the time or the funding of like going back into a studio to make a debut release. We just handed him that and we had it remastered and yada yada yada, and had an EP to support, and then we were just on tour saying yes to any and everything we could, like pretty quickly. But popping off, I don't remember. I don't remember that.
Yeah. Oh, well, you had your own funded tours, so like that's kind of Dan. I know you remember doing that, and we would do the same thing.
Yep.
We would do runs where we're like, all right, we're doing
Uh-huh.
out this way and back, and the only money you're making is if you secured a guarantee with the venue, and sometimes that got hairy because they would
Of
be like,
course.
"Oh, well, the turnout sucks because there's more people on stage than there are,
Or,
in the actual crowd."
or
And
the teenager promoting the show realizes he doesn't
Oh
have money to pay
exactly.
you, so they leave before the show's over.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
scoop the money and
God.
run. Yeah.
Why
This
not?
is Nashville all over again.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm not going to name names, but it's happened
Nah.
quite a few times. I was in a band. It was originally called Forsaken the Sky. We changed our name once we had some member changes to Forsaken, and we had a few instances up and down the East Coast, Northeast especially, where there were people who went to shows that decided to be promoters and decided to, oh, I'm gonna book all these bands that are semi-local, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, all these bands.
Mm-hmm.
And then the shows just turned into an absolute shit fest, and they were nowhere to be seen during that, or it got crazy. I mean, it was a long time ago. I don't know if shows are like that anymore. Actually, they are. I don't know if you guys have kept up on what's going on, but the show in Providence with We Came as Romans and Amir and Body Snatcher, there was some fuckery at that concert.
I heard
Haven't
something
heard about
about
that.
I saw like article headlines that I didn't click on. Something about like security was like, I don't know. I could be totally wrong in paraphrasing it, but something about like security was like really shitty to audience people or something, and the bands were like, we're done.
It spilled over. Dan, you know a little bit.
Yeah, so basically what ended up happening, so the venue, there was this really obnoxious drunk fucking dude there, which, there always is, nothing new, but they gave this guy like 5 warnings without ever kicking him out.
In a nutshell, from what I got out of it, is that security had manhandled a few patrons. Yeah, security had manhandled a few patrons. Some of the crew had objected to it, and then it turned into a violent situation between the crew and security. And it was like a unanimous decision. Like I heard some crazy shit. Like some of the interviews from it. It'd be so interesting to hear what happened. But we've all been there. We've all been there with
Well, I'll
security
say,
just
like,
acting a fool.
just to give you proper perspective, if there was security for the venue and crew for the bands, for proper perspective, that's already like a shitload more infrastructure than any of the tours we did back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm like, what's crew?
Yeah, crew
We
was
We
had a
had
like,
merch
merch.
guy.
Yeah, merch and lights.
Yeah, our guy did merch, lights, and managing, like everything.
those DIY tours, that was the norm, and there really wasn't much of an infrastructure that really does exist now, where these tours are. It's crazy as I watch the audience that brutal metal is reaching at this point. Like certain band, I mean, there's always that case where some bands pop off way more than others, but like it breaks my brain when I look at some of the crowds for, like, for example, like a Lorna Shore, and
Yeah.
they're doing solo shows that look like a festival crowd.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Mhm.
this isn't even remotely commercial music.
Not at
And these guys
all.
are massive.
Yeah, it's wild.
We've mentioned
Like,
it a few times on our show previously.
Them and like Slaughter to Prevail, like holy
right.
shit.
Yeah, like that wasn't a thing. That wasn't even remotely a thing. I mean, it back in the day for us in our genre, like the biggest bands were like a Kill Switch Engage, but they were filling like modest theaters.
Good clubs, solid.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the shit I'm seeing now is like
And even
tenfold
then,
that.
Killswitch though still had your catchy choruses and stuff. And like
100%. Yeah, they had like
yeah,
radio hits and
Lorna Shore's like just wild blast beats and like Cradle of Filth vocals. Like how
Just
are all these
animal
people in this?
noises.
that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
and
Like the
they're
times
really
are
fucking good. It's crazy, but like you're right. Like that was not a thing back in the day.
no, not even remotely close. It seems like the world is like finally come around for like some level of, I don't like the term, but like a mainstream acceptance of brutal heavy music as like a legitimate genre.
That, and one thing we've mentioned before in conversation, Dan and I, and on the show, is the technology and the ease of access for bands to get their stuff out there. Like if you guys had never had an Instagram, I think I could speak for Dan, but for Dan and I, you guys were fucking sick when we were playing shows. We were like, yo, this band rips, dude. Like you guys were an
real.
inspiration
Yeah.
to bands that we were in. We were like, oh, like this is where we gotta get. And to find out you guys are like funding your own fucking tours and not having anything like that is just like kind of a mind fuck, because we were just like, wow, these guys are up there.
Yep.
It's that's like what music does. If that to me is like my favorite part about making music and sharing music with whoever listens to it is when you connect to a record, when it turns into something that's like a part of your day, like on a regular basis, it it becomes much bigger to you than just something random. And yeah, like it it messes with your perception where you think of, and this happened to me countless times. A lot of the bands that we were obsessed with in our very early days, we thought they were these like big bands, but they were coming through and playing like garages and shit. Like we played early shows. There was a place in Pittsburgh called Planet of the Apes back in the day, and we were obsessed with like the early stuff that like Ferret Records and Trustkill were putting out, and bands like Every Time I Die, Norma Jean, Bleeding Through. We would listen. We
Legendary.
were obsessed with those records, and to us, they were huge bands. But they would come through and play these tiny hole in a wall shows, and it's like when you really connect to music like that, to you it's this like big thing. And I always thought that was super cool that I don't know, music kind of like affected you that way.
You don't realize that they're literally doing the same thing you're doing. They might have a talks of a contract here and there, or a little bit of financial backing. That's really the only difference. They might have somebody who's printing their merch other than you printing it yourself for self-promotion, somebody doing their managing. We started to get help with some larger acts that saw us playing locally, and they were semi-local bands, and they'd be like, all right, here, this is what you got to do. We've done this worked for us. And that helped us out. 13 years later, since the last time I've been on stage, to hear you guys were doing the same exact thing that we were doing. I could speak for the members in one of my bands. You guys were on the map for us. Like we were fans and still
Yeah,
am. And
thank
the
you.
fact that you guys have like announced this stuff back in July, that you guys are coming back and writing new material, got a show coming up, I was like, holy fuck, dude. Like that is so cool. And it seems par for the course. There's a lot of bands that are from the mid 2000s, early 2000s that are starting to jump back. And I think you made a really good point earlier saying that it's fun, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, this last couple of years, it seems like everyone's coming back. We were kind of late to the party, it seems.
Yeah, we were late to the party in terms of like saying so, because we definitely didn't want to like like overpromise and then underdeliver. we weren't sure what we like once Paul sent that first song and we started really starting to put energy and attention and focus into it. Like we didn't know what it was going to be, what it could turn into. And so we were like afraid of saying anything. And we ended up planning to have Paul and Will fly in July for like a long weekend of playing together. And prior to that, Rob and Joe and I had been practicing together like twice a week, and we had a batch of songs that we talked about, but we were like, let's all get together in July, play as much as we can those few days, and let's see if we're in the kind of shape that we'd be willing to show people in person. Let's see if we can actually, if we'd be willing to do this in front of people, or if we just want to. Either way, we're going to have fun. We miss each other. We'll hang out. If we suck, we don't have to tell anybody we even did this. But we spent that weekend in, I swear to God, like we played through the set and we were just like laughing at each other because it was like, it was great. Not tooting our horn. I just mean like it felt good.
Yeah, the riding the bike thing for sure.
Yeah, it was just like everybody like fell back in love with our songs. I definitely
they
did.
sound different too. Like it just, I don't know, we all put in so much work personally too. Like since I'm in Texas, like I'm playing along to the records to practice and relearning shit, and Rob and I are going back and forth over text, like, what the fuck was that riff? And we're listening to it all close, trying to figure out and sending chords back and forth to each other. Cause like we only had tabs for a couple songs and conversations had no tabs. But so it's been a hell of a journey for sure. Cause it's been just over a year. I think I sent the demo in September of last year. And then we all kind of like, all right, I guess we're doing this. So everyone started working individually on relearning their instruments and relearning the songs. And it's been a really long year of figuring all this stuff out and getting ourselves back into shape for shows. And Will's out in North Carolina singing in the woods when he's taking walks and shit and sending us videos. And so we've only had 2 times him and I have flown in as a band to play fully, but these guys are practicing every week. And then we're going to fly in again before the show and rehearse twice. But I feel, like Nick said, like it felt really good. It sounded great. I'm very happy with everything. Like it's just going so well. And for the record too, we're still like, holy fuck, also that this is happening. Like I wake up some days and go, oh my God, what are we doing? Not in a bad way, but just like, holy shit, I'm going to be on stage in 2 weeks in front of, 400 people or whatever it's going to be.
It's nuts.
Oh man, that sounds like the best fucking feeling. It's gotta be.
It is. It's for sure. The day of, I know that like the nerves are gonna be at an all-time high, but like I'd say for like the last 4 weeks, I stopped being terrified of it and started just getting excited because the practices were just going off without a hitch. Like we like peaked like a month ago.
Hell yeah.
With our practices, we're like, you know that feeling when you finish a song and everybody stops on a dime, like clean as hell, and it's just, we're just dialed in now, and it's gotten to the point where I like for weeks now I've been like, can the show just be tomorrow? Part of me is like, the hard part.
If you think about it, we honestly never practiced this much back in the day. We were on the road all the time, so technically you're always, staying in. Playing, you're always in it, but like we never prepared this much for anything ever. Like, so I'm excited, and I'm in the same boat. Like the butterflies are good butterflies now, and I'm feeling really comfortable, and now it's just exciting. So I can't wait.
We are excited for that. Is there any significance to the venue, Westside Bowl in Youngstown?
It's a massive outdoor stadium that's like I had a buddy that had like that somewhat of an assumption when he like saw just the name of the place, Westside Bowl, like it was some like big in the round kind of fancy deal.
Ohio's Hollywood Bowl. Right.
It's Youngstown, Ohio's like gnarly punk rock go-to venue for
Sick.
sick rock shows. They have a small room downstairs and a bigger room upstairs, and
In a
national
full
acts
bowling
are
alley.
starting to come through there. Yeah, it's called Westside Bowl because a portion of it is a legit operating still bowling alley.
Like we're literally playing right next to the lanes on the big stage upstairs. Like it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, this sounds like a fucking like time machine you're bringing me down. I remember going to like hardcore and metalcore shows at fucking bowling alleys. Holy shit.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's like super pro setup. Like they have great sound, full lights, like
Yeah.
all that. Like it's really hard to describe until you go in there and you're like, oh, like I didn't know what to expect. I think at least maybe I think Joe was maybe the only one that had ever been there before. And obviously Youngstown is close to home. Like we're all from Warren, which is like right down the street. So we wanted to do it at home, and Joe suggested it, and he's like, "This is really cool. Everyone plays here." And we went and checked it out. And we were like, "Fuck yeah!"
Oh man, that's so fucking cool. I always get excited. Like we've been doing this like 30-ish weeks now, consistently, and we've had a lot of cool people on. But like this in particular has been really, I don't know, really exciting. Just having you guys talk about coming back into it. When you guys were talking about your story about how it just kind of like stopped, that's kind of like how my band was when it all happened. We played a show that we didn't think it was going to be our last show, and we just kind of went away.
Yeah, it's a tough life, man. It's rough.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
You
for sure.
start gaining, ground, and like reaching more people, making more money to where it's sustainable. You start to get older, and you're like, "What the fuck am I going to do here?" It gets tiring.
Yeah, the last show I did, the fall before that, I think our last show was in like March 2014, and I had gotten married uh, in September the year before. Now I'm divorced.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
I,
thank you, thank you.
I
So
love
much
I
fun,
loved
so much
I
fun.
loved that teetering on the edge manic laugh right there.
Oh yeah, no, man. And
We can
that's,
talk about it.
as as hilarious as that is, like all joking aside, that was what inspired us to start this whole thing. It was just like not that, but Dave and I just wanting to seek out and just get back into this and just talk to cool people and see what's going on out there. And
That's beautiful. It's beautiful, man.
what have you guys been up to, like, aside, obviously you guys are working your ass off for this show and writing music and stuff, but like what are you guys like doing in your free time? I know you got families and stuff. What are you guys been getting into?
Well, I'm the only one without a family. I have a girlfriend, but no kids, and I pretty much just work. So my life was pretty boring. I've been living in Austin for 6 years now, 7 years, and I love it here. But other than that, and just enjoying the city and working, there wasn't really much going on. I play guitar here and there. I tried to start a band a while back just for fun, and then I remembered like how hard it is to get like the right people together to even get that first like spark. Like played with the drummer, and then people were flaky, and I was just kind of like, eh. So I was just kind of like doing nothing, honestly. And this like came out of
Just living a
nowhere,
normal
and
life. Yeah.
I thought because I'm the only one without kids, like of course I'm gonna say let's play shows, let's do this, let's write a record, and everyone's gonna be like nah. But then I was very surprised pleasantly when they all said yes. So this kind of filled a big creative hole in my life and has been great. So
Hell
aside from
yeah.
this, no, I haven't been doing a ton lately.
Paul's very busy. He's being modest. He's
Now I am, because I do the social media and the website and
I was just
the
about
demo.
to say.
Social media is a pain in the ass, man. Like
Yeah, it
just
is.
keeping up with it
Yeah, I do that for a living, so it kind of like fell right into like a slot of how I already like run my day. I do like marketing and graphic design and shit for my
Oh,
day job.
Cool.
I work remotely. So I just kind of plop that into like the other accounts I manage and just check in on things and post like once a week at least. Try to.
Literally what I'm trying to get myself into and get out of, hard labor.
Yeah, I feel you.
That's one of the reasons why I started doing podcasting a couple of years ago. I mean, podcasting came from the pandemic. I had a career brewing in a restaurant industry, and that just kind of blew up with that, and getting told you can't work for
Right.
5-6 months kind of opened the door for other opportunities. And doing this now, Dan and I started this because, like he said, it's a great way to connect. One, that, and then two, a bunch of our friends, you guys, are getting right back into it. Everybody's in their late 30s, and everybody's like, I cannot not play my instrument anymore. They got kids, jobs, houses, a bunch
Yeah.
of bullshit, debt, but the one thing that remains constant with them is I have to have some creative outlet, because, like you said, there's a creative hole,
Yeah.
and
If
that weighs a lot on people.
if it ever meant that much to you when you're young, it doesn't go away. You're
No.
just trying to like bury it or hide from it,
You just,
And
yeah, like you have to like reaccommodate yourself or like reintroduce yourself to like that relationship, because it is a relationship, like to you and your instrument. When you're like immersed in something like that, you have hours and hours and hours with it, and when you put it down, and those skills start to like atrophy, you forget about a lot of um the things that were really special to you and like personal to you about it, and reconnecting with that for everybody. I'm not going to speak for him, but I expressed it to Rob once, and he told me he had essentially the same thing, like, because I got my drums out and, like I said, hadn't played. And when I say that, I truly mean it. Like, I hadn't played in a long, long time, and decided, like, I ordered all new heads, and I was like, I'm gonna tear this drum set down, unscrew everything, and like detail it and put it back together like I'm bringing a car back to life or something. And it was
Hell
this like,
yeah.
this sounds cheesy, but like very, very genuinely was like this cathartic kind of reacquainting myself with this like thing that was literally my first real love, was like playing drums. I was like 10 years old, and it just hit me like a freight train, and I was tunnel vision for decades.
It's like that "this is my rifle" thing.
Very, very much
yeah,
so. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no shit.
yeah, to pretend that goes away just because you're old or you have a business or a family or whatever, like it just doesn't if that was part of you, because
Yeah.
like that sticks with you your whole life. And I never quit for like a long time, but there'd probably be a year or two where I didn't really touch it. And I think before we this was even a thing, the last thing I was doing when I got my guitar out after we moved into this house, I started learning Korn songs for fun.
Fuck yeah.
Hell
And
yeah.
I had my half stack in my office, and I was like, I've been a Korn fan since I was a kid, and I've never learned their shit. And we like my guitar was already tuned to A, so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna learn a bunch of Korn songs. And I was just drinking beer in my office, playing Korn, and that was my warm up to writing the first FAFSA song in 15 years.
Oh man, that's awesome. Like, what songs were you like learning, or did you just like learn a few, or did you like dive in and learn a shit ton?
Um, the first one was off Life is Peachy. I forget which song it was, and then I started going through Follow the Leader, which was like my first love with Korn when I was a teenager.
Hell yeah.
Just anything with a fucking big banger riff, I just like I got to know what that feels like to play that, because to this day, like they're so fucking heavy, like it's incredible.
I've always wanted a K5. Always wanted
Yeah,
a K5, and I have a similar Ibanez bass, but oh man, yeah, Korn. Korn was a first love is probably a good way of putting it. Yeah, to get you like do the introduction of heavy music, like that
yeah.
that was the era. Korn, Limp Bizkit, like they
Hmm.
were doing their thing, and still to this day, like you said, like I couldn't imagine seeing Limp Bizkit live right now. it must be.
Oh,
They look
dude,
like they're having a good
Shred.
time.
Yeah.
I just watched the full concert from whatever that festival was where he was dressed as a cowboy. It was
Yeah.
incredible. They look like they're having the time of their lives, and like everyone in the audience is like a new fan because he's like, "Who's seen Limp Bizkit before?" And then like nobody raises their hand, but
Yeah.
everybody loves it. Like they've had this resurgence, and like they're just playing it so right. But yeah, before Korn, I was listening to like Blink-182 and Green Day, and
Yep.
I was like, you don't really know what you like yet because you're like figuring things out and you're hearing these sounds as a kid and you're like, there's something here, but it's like that's not it yet. And then I heard Korn. Nick probably played him for me because we've been friends since we were like 6 years old or something.
Yeah, like
Man.
5, 6 years old.
Yeah,
Kindergarten.
so I heard Korn and I was like, oh my god. And then what was missing though was the speed. So then I heard Slipknot and I was like, okay. And then you throw in Deftones with the melody and like there's like essentially what fast was in the first place is just heavy, fast, and melodic. So that was like my three favorite bands growing up that influenced me forever.
It's amazing that the same three bands.
Very similar.
Or,
Very similar.
Yeah, the same three bands influence everybody in the same time frame, you know, because Slipknot was a change.
Oh,
of the
self-titled.
time.
Self-titled.
Yeah.
Oh my god, when that came out,
I
that
couldn't
changed
wrap
the
my mind
game.
around it. I remember
Changed the fucking
it's
game.
one of those records, and I don't really have this memory with many others at all, but I remember hearing the transition from the intro track into Sick for the very first time.
Oh my god.
At a Hot Topic back when they still had like the listening booths where it'd be like
Yes.
the new releases
Oh
and
my
those like
God.
full ear covering awesome headphones. And I had seen a couple of their shirts and I was like, what is this 800 different masks band? And it's funny because it's not like it's tame now, but now it seems so structured and like I know the song. But that first time hearing Sick, I couldn't comprehend what was happening. It went into
Yeah.
it and it was so fast and it was so relentless. And that was like I didn't know you could do that with your feet. I was like, wait, your feet can do like your hands? was like the thought I remember having. I was like, you can do that? All of a sudden double bass came into my life. I'd like to pretend I was some like super old school Slayer, like death metal kid, but I never was.
Yeah.
Never was.
I never heard any of that shit. That's what like Korn was the first heavy thing I heard, even though it's not fast. But I think I was probably there with you in Hot Topic because I have the same story of putting that on and looking at the cover and going, "That's the scariest thing I've ever seen." And then just and three drummers, and it's like that. You're like, "What the fuck is this?" And it changed my life, and here we are.
Oh shit, man.
I think I
That's
discovered
awesome.
Slipknot before Slayer, I would say.
Me too.
Oh, there's generations that Slipknot is their gateway into extreme music. And that's a beautiful thing. Like it just is. There's such a staple of a mainstream band. Like there's people that I work with that are, 15, almost 20. There's this kid that's like 21 years old that works where I work and he's a drummer and he's the biggest Slipknot head in the world. But to him, it's like all their last couple records. Like he's currently a massive Slipknot fan of like brand new stuff, and I keep trying to push him earlier and earlier. And it's funny that's like they're essentially the new Metallica. For the longest time, pre-Slipknot, it seemed like if you were trying to describe to somebody that you were in a metal band, people that didn't know any better would be like, "Oh, you guys are really heavy, like you're like Metallica." And you'd be like, yeah,
true.
yeah, we're like Metallica. Sure.
Oh my god. Yeah. If I had a fucking quarter every time I heard that.
Yeah, that's kind of the new bar is Slipknot. They're like, so you guys are like Slipknot? And
Like, sure.
true.
Yes, actually.
Yeah, yes.
sometimes just to fuck with
Yes.
people, I'll be like, heavier? And they're like,
Yeah.
no, that's not possible, but it's cool that you say that.
I think that's happened to us before once where somebody was, I think people have been like, so your band's like Slipknot. We're like, we're way heavier than
Yeah.
Slipknot.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
definitely.
that's not possible.
my first big concert was Tattoo the Earth with Slipknot headlining, and funny enough,
Oh man.
like they headlined over Slayer, which was insane because that was like 2000. Nick was
Yeah,
there with me.
that's popping off. That was them on their first record,
Headlining over Slayer.
Slayer.
What the fuck? I didn't know that, and
Yeah,
my
that
mind's
was
blown
off
kind
that
of.
first record cycle.
No shit.
And the best part was like I had heard of Slayer, but to me at the time, I'm 14. I'm like, oh, that's an old guy band. Like I don't care. And I'm like, ha, they're playing last. Like Slipknot's headlining over you. Like fuck you guys. But I remember Slipknot played the intro from the record, but they had it looped and it played for like 10 minutes.
Yep.
Just like everyone losing their shit and the crowd just waiting and waiting, and the anticipation that built when they finally came out in the old school bright red jumpsuits, and it was just fucking chaos. It was like just mind blowing.
We had a ball that day. Paul,
Yeah.
there's pictures floating. Well, actually, hopefully they're all gone. But there were photos for years of Paul and I as like 14-year-old, mouth full of braces kids with like our hair all spiky and shit. We met almost everybody from Slipknot, no masks during that day. They were
Wow.
just it was in that cool of an era where there was just like the main stage, and if you moved like 50 yards to the right of the main stage, it's kind of where all the buses were, and band members just came and went walking up to like the barricade of kids, just a regular normal barricade, signing stuff and taking pictures. We met Corey, Mick, Joey. I met Joey that night, traded bracelets
We met Joey
with him
after the show.
Yes.
Do you remember what he was telling us about Iowa?
Yeah, he was like, "Oh man, it's way heavier." Blast. That was the first time I heard the word blast beats. He was like, "We have a song with blast beats," and I was like, "What's a blast beat?"
Yeah, they were writing Iowa, and this is Joey with no mask telling 14-year-old me and Nick this, and we're like just standing there like with our jaws dropped, like, what's a blast beat?
Funny to me that
so
it's really funny to me that this is true.
Yeah.
Like I'm listening
I thought
to us
about
tell
this
the
the
story
other
right
day.
now. I haven't thought about that in years, but it sounds like utter bullshit.
Yeah.
Like
First time I was lucky enough to see Slipknot was, I think it was Ozfest 04, and the same thing. If you were a certain distance from the stage, they were just right there.
Yeah,
like,
I mean that's what metal's always been about. That's what I always felt like made it a much cooler thing, a much more rewarding genre to be like a big fan of, because you got to just rub elbows with people you looked up to like easily. It wasn't there's always those like kind of dickhead rock star personalities to be found, but by and large in that community it was always a like people's music kind of thing, like
everyone watching each other on the side of the stage.
Yeah, it is cool to rub shoulders, especially if you're a spectator and you're seeing a band like that, and you're like, yo, these guys are just right here. Because when you do see a band like Slipknot, they're these larger than life personas because they're wearing masks. They got the whole thing going on, and they've got however many record sales, at the time.
Yeah, and I would still feel like that around them, but especially when you're 14, it's like they're not even people. Like it was crazy.
No, yeah. Celebrities.
So, what is one of your craziest tour stories?
Some of them we probably couldn't tell.
Other than just not showing up at the next show and ending the band, like that's a crazy story being on tour.
True.
That one time we stopped.
I'm staying home today.
I mean, there were just typical crazy party stories and stuff like that, but
you can tell them my birthday story.
Paul's birthday story. This is funny.
When I turned 22 in Denver.
Yeah, all right. So celebrating the birth of our boy Paul, in Denver, Colorado, we were at this like bar that was attached to it was this like dingy metal bar that was somehow connected to like a 4-star hotel. And so like you go to the back left and there's a door, and that's that's the bathroom. But like the other back corner was a doorway that just like opened up into the lobby of this like grand golden walls and marble floors, like different universe, like hotel. And we had been drinking all day. Like I said, it was Paul's birthday, but we had Paul like blacked out drunk. Everybody was buying him shots, doing what you do for somebody on their birthday back then, kind of thing. And
Yeah, for sure.
he said he needed to pee, and I heard him say it. Some of the other guys didn't hear him, and he just like stumbles off the bar stool, and everybody's still partying and having fun. But I noticed like where he was headed, and I noticed that he was like going the wrong way, and he like stumbles through the door that led out into the hotel. And so I like trot off after him, but I'm half in the bag too, so I'm not like the best, like parental type keep everybody in line person. And I get to the door and I push the door open and I see this, like I said, this grand hotel lobby with golden elevator doors, and Paul, with his eyes closed, is standing directly in front of one of the elevators, pissing on it. He's like asleep on his feet, peeing on a closed elevator door.
I thought I was in a stall, I guess.
Thankfully, there was nobody else in the lobby right then. But I was just like, oh! And then some guy comes around the corner, hardly spoke English, that was like wearing a little tuxedo or something, like works there, and he just starts screaming. He's like, you pee! You pee! And I like grabbed him and we ran back into the bar and like hid from this guy. But yeah, he was just on another planet and thought he was standing at a urinal. But instead, like, could you imagine being on that elevator and it opens?
Yeah.
Before you can even see out the door, pee just starts coming in.
Oh my god.
Like,
it's about to be The Shining, but piss.
When my memory kicks in, right after that, because the adrenaline, like they were calling the cops and whatever, I remember, like, I think it was Nick stuffed me in the van and said hide, and so I like laid down on the floor in between the seats with like piss all over my pants, like trying to just hide from the cops and like trying to figure out like what is going on. But that's where my memory picks up. But luckily, nothing happened. They didn't catch me, and we left.
Beautiful. I was gonna say that gives a whole new meaning to a golden shower in a golden room. Like.
Yeah.
The elevator
God.
was already gold.
Yeah.
No harm,
The
no
Shining
foul.
reference. That's great.
That was... So before we let you guys go, what are the plans for the future? You guys got any? You guys got a record in the works? Full runs? Merchandise? New stuff? The stage is yours.
Well, we just did a merch drop for Halloween that ended, but we do plan to do like periodical like merch drops online that will be like limited runs for like a week or two. We obviously have the return show on the 18th at Westside Bowl, and then after that, we're going to be focusing mainly on finishing the record and hoping to be in the studio by like April-ish and release it next summer. As far as other shows, we don't have a ton planned at the moment. There's things in the works, things we're talking about. We have a booking agent now. But like full tours we'd be unable to do just with everyone's like circumstances now. So it would be like, sorry, my cat's yelling.
All good.
It would be like festival here and there, a weekend warrior type thing, maybe like at the most like 4 or 5 days max. But we're just, kind of getting our feelers out there and seeing what's possible and just get this first show under our belts first.
Awesome.
To us, the priority is getting new music to people. It's like we're very excited about this stuff, and just getting to share it is going to be so exciting because we've been working on it hard, and Paul has made the best songs we've ever had, like by a long stretch, and that to me is the priority, is making art and releasing art again on our terms. Like we're talking to a label. It's not announced yet. It's not officially penned, so it'd be smart to just not talk about it. But
Understandable.
like
Sure.
it'll be, we're for sure releasing a record, and like Paul said, in the spring we're going to record it. We're going to go to the same studio that we made Delenda and Conversations at. That's like another home to us. Our producer friend Jocko is like, he's the man, and he knows us, and we're comfortable with him, and it's going to be perfect. We're going to try to do something raw, and just, I don't know. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
Just making right by the past and how things ended and finishing it correctly on our terms, basically.
It's awesome. I mean, as a fan, we're very excited. I know a few of my other friends are very excited to hear what you guys got coming up, and hopefully, like you said, new record. Stoked for that, and thank you guys so much for spending an hour with us and shooting some shit, and it was a great time, and hopefully we can do it again at some point in the future after you guys have been in the studio. And thank you guys.
Yeah,
it's our pleasure, man. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having us. It means a lot.
Yeah, we'd love to be back. This was really fun, and thank you for having us.
For sure. And the one thing I just want to go out on, my one suggestion, you have new music coming out, you planning on having it out next year, try and see if you can get on Furnace Fest, because I think that a lot of people would be stoked.
We would love to. We have our eyes on it. We know it's the last year, so that would be great. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I definitely don't want to miss that, especially since it's, like you said, the last one. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. You guys have been really fucking cool. You definitely give me a lot of vibes of a lot of the guys I grew up being in bands with and growing up with and stuff. So, yeah, this was really fucking cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
Listen on Spotify, where you can follow and rate the show. If you prefer YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell so you have updates for full episodes and exclusive clips.
Find all of these links at our link tree. That's www.linktr.ee/Tales from the Soundcheck podcast.
And stay tuned for more news, future merchandise updates, and coming soon, our Patreon, arriving in 2024.
If you have any comments, questions, or booking inquiries, please send us a message on Instagram at Tales from the Soundcheck podcast.
Or shoot us an email at talesfromthesoundcheckpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Find all of these links at our link tree, and that's at www.linktr.ee/Tales from the Soundcheck podcast.
Listen on Spotify, where you can follow and rate the show. And if you prefer YouTube, don't forget to hit that little bell and subscribe to our channel for full episodes and exclusive clips.
If you have any comments, questions, or booking inquiries, please send us a message on Instagram at Tales from the Soundcheck podcast.
And stay tuned for news, future updates about our Patreon, which is arriving in 2024. Or shoot us an email at talesfromthesoundcheckpodcast@gmail.com.